This is Chosen PLLC. Welcome to Clinician Conversations, where mental health professionals talk about how they cope with navigating life challenges.
Well, hello, everyone. Today, we're going to have another session of conversations with clinicians. So we have with us Dr. Leatrice Brooks, licensed psychologist. We have Benjamin Steves, who's a licensed professional counselor and also specializes and loves doing couples therapy. And we have Laurel Huff, who is also a licensed professional therapist and certified in advanced alcohol and drug counseling. So we're gonna jump in today and we're gonna talk to you a little bit about the word for the year. And each of us, we're gonna share like what word has come up for us for the year that brings some meaning to how we're gonna proceed through this 2023.
So I want to start a little bit by giving some background on word for the year, just to give folks a little bit of context. So um, word for the year is something that I started doing a few years back, maybe 5 or so years. I feel a sneeze trying to come on. So started about 5 or so years ago, and really it came out of this space of trying to be intentional with my growth and my development. And so usually towards the end of the year, November-ish, I'll take some time and I'll think about where my current growth edge is. Like, what am I working on? What has been a theme in terms of where I'm trying to move? And then instead of doing like a New Year's resolution, I'll come up with a word for the year, a word that describes that space and what that goal is for me. And one of the things I like about word for the year is that unlike a New Year's resolution, it's something to really focus on and dive deep into. And by the time you work that word for an entire year, you have got it down in you in terms of the way that you engage with other people, and yourself and the world in general. So, and hopefully it helps to redefine how you function a bit. And so it's been something that I have shared over the last few years with the team. And part of sharing it with other people is accountability and checking in with people to see how it's going. And then also being able to share wins and share life in that way through that lens. And we get to watch each other grow and encourage each other to grow around that growth edge that we have identified. So, um, yeah, so that's what it is.
Yeah, thanks for the background story on that. Absolutely. Yeah, so who wants to jump in and talk about the word? Go ahead and Dr. Brooks and kind of share your word and we'll
Oh, you gonna
do
keep me
that.
talking? Okay. So
Yeah, absolutely.
my word for the year. So it can be a word for the year or it can be like a short phrase.
Yes.
My word for the year is perfect peace. And perfect peace really came out of this space of, I feel like the last half of last year, there were a lot of changes and they weren't like on, especially on the business side. And they weren't bad changes, like they were good changes. There were just a lot of them. And when there are a lot of changes, sometimes you have a tendency to feel something. And I didn't want to be in this space of like feeling every up and down that comes with every change. I didn't want to do that. So we had some staff transitions, which that happens and it was fine. It was good for the business. We had a couple vendor transitions. Then we had it was just a lot going on. And so I decided I wanted to have perfect peace, meaning that when stuff happens, I want to be able to acknowledge it, but I don't want my feelings to be all over the place. And so it's been interesting leaning into that word because, of course, as it happens, there are still transitions and change. Like I realized we the day after 1099s were due, I decided to go in the system and do some looking, and I went into QuickBooks, and there were a couple of 1099s that didn't go out, and I'm like, of all day, it would be the day after they were due, but I was like, it's fine. There's a grace period for that. It'll be fine. Just send them out. And then we got them sent out, And then I did some more thinking, and then I realized, okay, let me say this: it's not y'all 1099s, okay? So don't don't worry about that. But it was for a couple. It was a couple vendors. But then I went back and I did some more digging, and then I realized that we were gonna have to send a corrected 1099, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It is what it is. Glad we're figuring this out. It'll be fine. And so again, like having that perfect peace versus being worked up about it. And getting to a space where you understand that things happen, like life is going to continue to happen, and I can be in control of how I respond to it or the emotions that go along with it versus the situation dictating my response.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a similar conversation with my daughter yesterday, and she's been operating in that same mindset as far as that piece. And she was at work yesterday, and young lady, a mother of three children, she was in the car by herself going to pick up her children and fell asleep at the wheel and ran into the back of my daughter's car, and it's just totaled. And my daughter has a brand new car, and both the cars were totaled, of course, but the piece that my daughter has, she was more so worried about the person that hit her, and really because she was so sorry and showed a lot of remorse, and she was like, mama, for this is an inconvenience for me, so I have insurance, I'm good. The other person is a detriment because it was an older car and she didn't have it. So just that piece and her checking on her, just seeing that show up in her life is huge.
Mm-hmm.
My word, I have actually a word. Usually I have a phrase, but this year, what stands out for me is to organize, because I have involved in some various committees and just in my own business, my other coffee business, and the word for me is organize. So just having a backup and just kind of organize more in regards to putting some steps in place as things increase so that I can handle the increase and not be frazzled. And that's been going well, and it feels good, which is putting me in a place of peace. But that organization has been really huge. And a lot of it with the organization is pre-planning and just preparation. So those two go together. So that's where I've been operating in. That's been very helpful so far.
Mine for this year. Last year it was perseverance, just working through a lot of health issues and things like that, and building stamina. And but this year I was kind of more inward focused, trying to do more self care and things like that last year. And this year the word service came up for me. So and it's servanthood in just all the mundane tasks. Like an example was yesterday. I saw the garbage and it was all filled, and I'm like, "Ugh, well, why can't anybody else put this out?" And then the servant word came back, and it was in my head, and I filtered it through there. It's like, okay, servanthood, finding joy in just doing servant kind of things, like taking out garbage and doing the mundane tasks that we all kind of hate. And it really brought that to the forefront of my mind of saying, okay, chill out. We're focusing on being a servant, find joy in servanthood. And I took the garbage out and happily brought it outside. And it really was I think that's what I like about the word for the year is you take all of your just day to day, everything in your day, and you filter it through that versus what the New Year's resolution is usually it's like one change and we do it for a week and then we quit. But the word, it's small enough that it's like it's just a word. Okay, and it can affect everything. So it kind of tricks you into changing your whole worldview by just being a small little thing.
And I think that's part of why I like it too, is what you just said, which is the word can transcend across multiple areas of your life versus feeling like I have to have a goal for home and a goal for family relationships and a goal for work and a goal for self-care. Like, it's going to show up in multiple areas of your life, which makes it a lot easier to grasp and to hold on to. And to be like a trigger for you to remind you of who it is that you said that you wanted to be or that you were trying to be.
Yeah, that's definitely how it works. I'm excited to hear Laurel's word, though,
Yeah.
since we kind of
We've been
sprung
waiting.
this on her last week or 2 weeks ago. So
Well, it's actually what I've been working on, and I've talked about it a lot with you guys. I just didn't have a word, so it's presence. So it's the state of being present. And I went and looked up like some definitions, and I wrote this down, and I just loved it. So I've got a little bit of notes here. So it says letting the most powerful version of yourself shine through. And I thought that was pretty cool. And Benjamin, I think that this is a word too that I could talk about in so many different ways. For me, the presence, like in the moment, mindfulness, self-care, all of that has been kind of the focus for the last couple of years, and it still is. But it's the step before that that I think I missed or thought that I was done with, where I do need to focus on kind of where I'm at. And so, I've talked about that with like the breathing, just really small things. What I'm trying to do in the morning is when I wake up, and it's kind of hard, is getting in where, how do I feel, like taking, even if it's just a minute or two, instead of, oh, I need to get up, I've got like 5 million things going on. Kind of, what am I feeling? How is my body? Do I have any emotions that are coming up? And then I'm hoping, and it is slowly happening, that that's going to translate throughout the day with like setting reminders, because I'm pretty skilled at having the list and knowing, okay, these are all the things I need to do self-care wise, but how do I keep checking in without like living in my head? And then knowing that that's always going to change, because I thought, okay, I've dealt with it. Like, I kind of know me, and I do know me, but I'm also changing and evolving. And, I might have different needs depending on what's going on in my life. So, yeah.
I love
Mhm.
that.
One of the things that came up for me as you were talking was, sometimes I will have therapy clients that feel overwhelmed when they find out there's something they need to work on, like in a different area of their life. And it's coming up for me in this context around work for the year, because one of the things that I know, I've said before is, well, no, it's still anxiety, right? Like, it's a different area of your life or a different presentation of your life, but it's not like, oh, I've got all of these problems. At the end of the day, it's anxiety.
Yeah.
So when we boil it down to one thing and we're intentional about working on that, it feels a lot less overwhelming. And then you can also, I think it teaches you this skill that a lot of people, I think, struggle with sometimes, is this giving yourself credit for incremental growth and development. So we often want, like, let me get full-fledged to the end of where it is that I want to be, versus noticing the incremental growth and change that encourages you along the way. And so when there's this expectation that with the word for the year, I'm going to be moving and growing and developing throughout the course of the year, then there's also this sense of it's going to continue to build over time. And then we notice what incremental growth looks like. And then that keeps you encouraged along the way. And you can think about, like, okay, where was I at before versus where I am now? Where did I start versus where I am now an entire year later? And then also, I thought about this when you were talking, Benjamin, that when you brought up, what your word for the year was last year. And I think about how my word for the year last year my word for the year this year builds off of my word for the year of last year. Like, in order for me to execute well in what has come up from my word last year, I need perfect peace. Because my word for the year last year was pour, and it was about pouring into other people. And along those lines, we have our first intern here at the office that we're excited about. She's in class right now, so that's why she's not on. But yeah, like, having an intern is pouring or community work is pouring. And I can't be having an intern and I don't have perfect peace because, interns are learning and they got to figure stuff out. So I need peace to not be all frazzled if, like, something doesn't go the way that it could have gone or it could be done differently. Or in working in the community, I don't want to be frazzled when life happens with them and I'm responsible for helping them to get to a different place. So there's definitely a building process. To year after year. And I also like it because it's the next step and where you already are. It's not like we're pulling something completely out of the air. It's my current growth edge. This is where I'm identifying already that I need to do some work or that I've been doing some work and I'm just going to continue intentionally along that path.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
it's celebrating each, I call it victories, like in rehearsing our victories, like each step, each victory helps you to win, the next one. And yeah, no matter how big the tasks are, and just no matter how big, how small, that's still growth, that's still. And Laura, when you talk about being present, and that's something that I practice as well, it makes, I don't know about you, but it makes the days, it makes you more cognizant of the days. So the days aren't just flying by, where you're able to take time and be present in each moment. It makes a big difference versus days just flying by and you don't know what happened. But really leaning into it and to be present in each area. And
Hmm.
also I'm gonna back up for a minute too with organizing. And my word last year was preparation, so mine kind of goes, they kind of go hand in hand as well. And organizing, and then this new, being certified in whole food plant-based nutrition, which is a new venture for me that I love and something that I'm passionate about, and being able to organize and structure that in the therapy sessions with clients that are wanting to go that route as far as whole food plant-based nutrition. That has really allowed me to operate in a space even more so with organization and having that plan laid out. So it's been really helpful for me, just that organization piece.
Hmm.
Something that comes up for me, excuse me, is thinking about what you just said, but also what Laurel said around, like, the different components or pieces of presence is when you have a word for the year, it helps you to filter the things that you want to do or the things that you want to try, because everybody has a strategy for how you're supposed to live your life and what you're supposed to be doing. And everything can sound good, and people are really great at marketing and, hyping you up and energy and all of that stuff. But when I know what it is that I'm endeavoring to do, I can filter it through that. Like, is this thing that they are recommending to me going to help me with what it is that I'm specifically focusing on in my life right now? If it's not, maybe that's not the thing, because it can also be super discouraging when we out there trying everything. Oh, well, I'm gonna try this and I'm gonna try this and maybe this is a good fit and maybe like, nobody has time for that.
It has to
Nobody
fit
has
our
time for
lifestyle.
say it again.
It has to fit our lifestyle because it's not a cookie cutter, everyone
Yeah.
has a different flow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I think about that. That would also help if it's not part of your course that you're going on for this year. It helps you to say no to things without feeling guilty about it. You're
Yes.
just saying no. It's no because that's not my course for right now. I might be able to do it later, but it's not. It's just not a right now kind of thing for me. So you
Yeah.
can talk to people if they come to you. Well, you want to do this thing, this thing, this thing. It's like no,
Right.
not right now. Maybe later, maybe next year when my words are a little different or something like that, which I think people a lot of times need a lot of permission, I guess, to say no to things.
Right.
Uh,
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
that does sound like a nice way to kind of be like, you can say it that way and it might not sound as judgmental. So I could see somebody being like, I could do that.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And no is a complete sentence, but yeah, when you add that component of it is purpose. It doesn't fit into my purpose
Yeah.
right now. My brother was so funny. We would ask him for, can you do this for me? Or can you do, what about this? Or asking him to volunteer. And he would say, no, you are not on my agenda.
Yeah.
You're not on my agenda today.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But your way is nicer, Benjamin. I
Yeah,
like
it is a nicer way. Definitely.
I should have been a delegate or something like that for, other countries or something like that. But yeah.
I do have a strategy for that. I probably shouldn't say it on the internet, but I'm gonna tell you what the strategy is. So I put everything in my calendar, and I started this habit when I was really learning how to have like boundaries around my calendar. I started this habit of making sure that I tell people like I don't schedule anything without looking at my calendar first.
Yeah.
And when I have time, when I put me on my calendar, it literally is a block out for the whole day from 8 to 8, and it says me. And so if somebody asks me, hey, are you available on this day? Can you do? I look at my calendar. Now they can't see my calendar, they don't know what it says, but I look at my calendar and it says me, and I'm saying, unfortunately, I'm not available at that time. And I look and see when am I available, right? And like I feel like in some way I have appeased you by at least looking at my calendar. And I have considered it, and my calendar is telling me I cannot.
Exactly.
So that's what it is. That has made it a lot easier for me to say no to people. Like I'm not available. That could be a whole nother show, a whole nother episode.
I think that's going to be part of our next one. In
Yeah,
fact, we're
boundaries
talking
is
about
the
saying
next
no,
one.
Yes,
things
we're gonna
like
talk about
that.
boundaries. Yeah.
Yes.
There.
Yeah, you got to defend your boundaries and honor yourself
Oh,
in
don't
that
get
way.
started, Benjamin. You gonna jump in now?
I know.
I was
We'll,
gonna
we'll,
say.
we'll talk about that maybe next
Yeah.
time. Next
So
time.
speaking of word for the year, so full disclosure, I did not have perfect peace this morning. Jesus, I was I was rushing out the house. Okay, funny story is I was like, I think I need a lighter shade of makeup. I was like, I think I need just a tad lighter. So I tried this other shade this morning.
Mhm.
Why did I try it in the morning? When I was like on my way out the door. So I tried it in the morning. I was dressed. I was ready to roll. There's a mirror on the back of the door. And so I'm just about to put my coat on, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, no, this is not going to work. And I have a presentation today. And so I'm like, I am not going to I can't stand there in front of these people with this wrong shade of makeup on. So I had to take everything off and redo it. But then, of course, so I'm driving down the street in a 40-mile-an-hour lane, and there were two lanes, both cars in both lanes were driving 20.
Ooh.
I was like, what are we doing? And it was bad because I was running late now. So then I had to start my meeting with Jody on Zoom in the vehicle while I'm driving. And whenever there's an audience and I'm driving, I am giving commentary about what's happening on the road. But later I was like, oh, that was not a good demonstration of perfect peace. I need to keep working. Because the moment my life got a little frazzled, my peace got frazzled.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not how this is working. So word of the year is also this, like being intentional to reflect on how it's going and what areas of your life you need to continue tweaking in. But because you're focused on it, it increases the likelihood that you're going to see the area where it needs to grow. And also, by the time you get to the end of the year, it's going to become a healthy habit for you to operate in that space.
Yeah.
So like it's just incorporated into the way that you do life.
Yeah.
It becomes a lifestyle.
Definitely. Well, and as you're tweaking, one big thing, tweak without shame too. No shaming yourself. If you notice that, you've messed up or haven't fulfilled the word, you go back and say, oh, okay, I didn't do it this time. I need to do a little bit more work. That's fine. Not going to get it perfect the first time, but don't allow shame to paralyze you into quitting the word for the
Yeah,
year.
Yeah.
it's a process. It's a
Yeah.
process.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And that's a good way to end it. It's a process. So definitely
Embrace the process.
embrace the process. Yes. So thank you all for joining us for another segment of Conversations with Clinicians. And we'll see you back in a few weeks, and we're going to talk about boundaries. So stay tuned.
Bye.